I have this crazy belief that the purpose of a business isn't to make money for the shareholders.
Oh my gosh, work-life balance. What does it even mean?
And when they say, do you really think somebody's going to be able to vacation on the moon? Wrong question. Much better question is, who owns the moon?
Hello, and welcome back to Revenue Rascals. And I am so excited today. It has been a couple of months since I have had a guest on Revenue Rascals. I hope you have enjoyed the series that we've been producing about growing your small business and, being found on AI. But today I have brought in Mr. Randy Gage. And the reason why is because we're in alignment on something really important. And that means that you do not have to kill yourself, burn out, and have the worst life ever to grow your business. And when I found Randy, I said, we're going to have Randy on the show and we're going to talk about prosperity first. And if anyone listening right now is thinking, what, I thought it was profit first. Well, then you need to listen in because we're going to have a great conversation about how prosperity can lead to that profit. Welcome, Randy, to the show.
Hey, Michelle, thanks for bringing me in.
Oh, yeah, we're really excited for our conversation today and just to shed some light on some alternative methods to building wealth, having happiness, and living that entrepreneurial dream that, most of my listeners have. So, Randy, give us a little bit of background on yourself and how you've become who you are today, which I believe is 7 best-selling books. I might be wrong. It could be 11. International speaker and impact maker.
Actually, this book behind me is number 16.
Oh my gosh, that is impressive. I don't know if I have 16 books in my brain.
Once you start, you can't stop. I'm already deeply immersed in number 17. But yeah,
Love it.
I'm always working. My tribe is founders, CEOs, and builders who want to grow, but do with the words you just said, prosperity first business. Because I have this crazy belief that the purpose of a business isn't to make money for the shareholders, as what's his name said, but that if your business doesn't serve you, your employees, your clients or customers, and the world at large, then you shouldn't be doing it. It's not a prosperity business. And I believe that as we develop our careers, we shouldn't have to sell our soul, have our kids not want to be with us, break up our marriage, be 2 cheeseburgers away from a diabetic coma, or any of the other, the grind, hustle, rip the head off your competition and spit down their throat. It's like hustle porn. It plays good on Instagram, but it's not going to create the kind of career the people who are watching or listening to this want to do.
Oh gosh, I feel that literally in my bones. Like we're just meeting right now, but I am prosperity first. So that is truly what I believe. I have excused myself from client engagements and other things when it violated my own compass for what my business looks like, where my time goes, how I get to treat my family and my body. And then these things are so incredibly important. And, I have had so many people ask me over the years, Michelle, why aren't you scaling at all costs? Like scale, scale, scale. You know what you're doing. And I'm like, because the sacrifice to my family, my body, my life, to me, it's not worth it. So, it's just a different value set. So talk to me a little bit about how you developed prosperity first and those 4, I believe you have 4 quadrants that define what prosperity first is. So let's start there.
Yeah, so 4 quadrants of prosperity. First one is what I call resources. And that's where money and material things would come into play. What are the resources you're bringing to bear on the scenario, the situation, the problem? So that's the one quadrant that most people think is the whole game. That's what I call 1 quadrant success. Those are the people, they come to me and they're making gazillions of dollars and they got all the toys, but their kids couldn't pick them out of a police lineup. Or
Mhm.
they're 80 pounds overweight and the doctor's telling them, if we don't get this diabetes under control, we're going to be amputating your right leg next month. That's one quadrant success. So we need, that's one thing is the resources. The second one would be health and wellness. Ask anybody in the world who is not healthy, and they would tell you they would trade all the money they have, all the titles they have, all the accolades to be healthy. So health and wellness is the other one. Third one is what I call harmony. Just mental harmony. Whether it's religious, spiritual, secular, it shows up in different ways for different people, but you're comfortable in your own skin. You do work that lights you up. It brings value to you. You don't sacrifice your relationships for that work or your health for that work. You're comfortable in your own skin. You're at peace with other people and animals and solar systems. And the fourth quadrant is what I call significance, because at some point, as your success becomes greater and greater, you realize, okay, there are only so many sports cars I want to buy, or there are only so many homes I can own, or there's so many awards I can win. I really would like to know that the world was a better place because I've been here. And you make this jump from success to significance. And that's where philanthropy shows up. That's where mentoring shows up, giving back, those kind of things and that's why I say, I believe our homework on this planet in this lifetime is to find the path that lets us go in that direction, where you have work you're passionate about. It brings joy. You don't have to worry about work-life balance because you found work that's congruent with who you are. The work lights you up. You work with other people who appreciate the work. The work doesn't come at the expense of those other three quadrants. And that's the kind of abundant life we want to live.
Oh my gosh, work-life balance. That's actually one of the most aggravating terms I think that
It
exists out
is.
there. It's so outdated, antiquated. What does it even mean? It doesn't even work. So what is your perspective? What should be the replacement thought of of work-life balance? What words do you use to replace
I
that?
always just say, to me, the highest form of intelligence is creating your ideal life.
Mm.
So
Yep.
I've created what I really do believe is my ideal life. My mother is 89 years old. She just had a fall. She broke her hip. A lot of people watching know exactly what she's going through. And that means what I'm going through. So I've got a business. So next week, I'm going up there and just going to spend a week with her and give my sister a little break. And and I have that kind of business. I can run my business from a laptop under a palm tree in Tahiti, or sipping water and cheese plate on the Champs-Elysees, or looking in after my mother, right? I've got the kind of work that I can do that any place, anywhere, in the manner that I want. And I can choose, like, okay, at this moment in time, my mother needs more attention than my business does. And I could choose 4 months from now, like, okay, I've got a new book coming out, and the book launch is going to require me to choose more effort into that for a period of time, right? It's just an ebb and flow, but if you plan it right and you're looking at the long term and the right outcomes, then it's a beautiful harmony.
Yes, harmony is the great way to look at it. And so, for me, as I still have younger kids, so my kids are 10 and 14. My daughter's into rodeos. My son does dirt biking, skiing. We live in Park City, Utah. We have just like this really full extracurricular life. And I am not missing out on this. And I am going to participate. So I bought a horse for myself this year and are getting into some fun competitions and leisure, and being around large animals like that is the most harmonious feeling that I can have in life. And I notice some of my best ideas now are actually coming when I'm horseback riding.
I
And I'm
believe
like,
that.
this is so therapeutic and amazing. And but what I love is, similarly to you, because it sounds like once again our values are so aligned, is that autonomy is so incredibly critical to my own prosperity model. So for me, I cut back way, way, way back over summer because that's what my family wants and needs and what I want right now. And so that's sort of the lull or the dip in, like, I would say, my output in my business. But I designed it that way. And then I double down in certain months. And for me, that autonomy, that flexibility, that is like a key component to anything that I would lean in. So I'm curious, have you ever met anyone that didn't value or want that autonomy? Because I feel like that is a major desire for basically anyone on the planet.
I think there's a lot of people who are brainwashed and they don't appreciate things because they just bought into, and that's what a lot of my books are about. A lot of my work is about the literally mind viruses, how we get brainwashed with, take money and success. What do we get brainwashed with? Rich people are evil, money is bad, it's noble, it's spiritual, it's honorable to be poor, to be successful career person, you have to be a terrible parent. Those are just mind viruses, right? So we have them for health, we have them for religion, we have them for relationships, all kinds of things. And you basically get brainwashed by the time you're 8 years old in these important foundational beliefs. You put them all together, and what it does is it creates an operating system. So that's the operating system you get. So if I look at the first 30 years of my life, I started off very poor, single mom, raising 3 kids by herself, knocking on doors, selling Avon. I hated being poor. I wanted to get out of it. First, I went in a really interesting direction. I was in jail for armed robbery at 15 years old, teenage alcoholic and drug addict, and made some really terrible choices in that arena. And then I went on the other. Okay, I got another chance, clean up, work hard, play by the rules, grind, hustle, buy into all that. And I'm watching Dallas and Dynasty and uh, okay, so I want to be the next, Bobby Ewing and the next Blake Carrington, and it was all about the money and the Lambos and the Ferraris and the jets and the thing, and I didn't think about the other stuff because I just bought into the programming. I bought the one quadrant success that I think so many people get programmed with, and they don't know that they are. So, my work is about showing people, hey, no, there's another side of that. There is a holistic view of prosperity. Yeah, you can create a prosperity first business. You don't have to try to bolt it on like, okay, we're going to go out, we're going to sell these widgets and we're going to make billions of dollars with these. And then we're going to start a foundation and we're going to give back 1% of the proceeds will go to the foundation. That's hey, we're going to go out and make a lot of money and we're going to try and do good. You could actually build it from the ground up of, I'm going to do good. I'm going to create a prosperity first business from the get-go.
Yes. And it's interesting to me because I don't think that people believe that it's possible. So I think a lot of people right now will be listening because of the propaganda, because of the mind viruses. It's like, are they even open to hearing the alternative? So I'm curious, like, how do you change the minds other than your books? Like when you have a conversation with a business owner that's always done profit first or is one quadrant or maybe two quadrants, like what do you say to that person to get them to be open to undoing the mind viruses, the propaganda, and believing in the four quadrant system?
Yeah, they have to recognize the programming they have. Until you recognize, I literally have this core foundational belief. So one of my books is called Radical Rebirth. And it's a very much a woo-woo self-development book that entrepreneurs eat up. And because they realize, wow, this stuff that I thought was woo-woo self-development is actually the stuff that's preventing me from becoming a billionaire. Because I break it down into 6 specific categories, right? Health and wellness, money and success, God and religion, sex and sexuality, work and career. And then I outline each one of those 6 areas. Here's the most virulent, pervasive mind viruses in this area. And here's how you got these beliefs by the time you were 8 years old, right? Like people can't imagine like that they're blowing up their marriage at 35 because of something they learned at 7, but it's true. If your parents argued and bickered all the time, or that one was abusive to the other, or one cheated on the other, you had a core foundational belief of how marriage and relationships operated. Nobody told you that. At 8 years old, you're not discerning enough to, or have the self-awareness enough to know, hey, I've created a foundational belief here, but you did. And then when you repeat the pattern and you blow up your marriage at 35 years old, you might spend 3 years with a therapist to figure out what you could have read in one chapter of my book and realize, oh my God, I'm actually just repeating the same dysfunctional pattern of my parents because I didn't recognize that that turned into a foundational belief for me. So I'm showing them like this is what you say you want. This is what's preventing you, because they say, I'm being prevented. My ex-wife is doing this, or the government is doing that, or my partners are doing this, or the market is doing that. And I'm like, no, I'm not buying any of that garbage, because those are all external factors, and that's not your bottleneck. Your bottleneck is you. So if you want to become a billionaire and float an IPO and do, or you want to take your 4 dry cleaners and you want to turn it into a nationwide chain of 5,000 dry cleaning stores, it's going to start with you. And so we've got to recognize, okay, what are these core foundational beliefs? And then we got to look at, are they serving you? And of course, they're not serving them. And then we got to say, okay, how do we replace them with beliefs that empower you? Right? So if this new book, Wealth Without Apology, is kind of the continuation of that process for entrepreneurs, where I'm kind of re-emphasize a little what the main points of the Radical Rebirth book are, and then showing entrepreneurs, here's how you pivot and apply them moving forward. So now you say, wow, I've been striving on this conscious level. I have been striving to be wealthy for 20 years, but I actually have a foundational belief that rich people don't get into heaven. And so no matter what I do on the conscious level, on the subconscious level, I've been sabotaging it because I believe it's spiritual to be poor. And that's when their life transforms. That's when everything changes. So now they replace that belief with a more empowering belief, like, wow, the more wealthy and successful I become, the more good I can do in the world. And whether it's my church, mosque, temple, synagogue, the charities that I care about, the things where I could do good, the wealthier and more successful I am, the bigger a platform I have, the more I can create that good. And now when we change that foundational operating system, everything changes.
Yes, I love that so much. Now, for me, I'm trying to half the reason I love having guests on the show is so that I can work on my own personal development. It's quite fun for me. So thanks for joining in on that. So when I'm thinking about this and all of the quadrants and like what would be the unlock for me to get to the next growth target for my business. So I'm going through this right now and just kind of like self-reflection points. And over the last 18 months, the health side of thing has been my main focus because what I did is I sacrificed that in a bit for my building phase. So I brought that back into my life. So the health part, then the harmony part. I also have been working on with, just the animals and I've going back to church and just kind of like reconnecting and all of that kind of stuff. And then the resources, clearly that's really critical. But right now I'm like, wow, I've really done a great job at health and harmony over maybe the last 18 months. But I think resources and then also significance is maybe some of the next two places I need to go because I used to be the one quadrant resource only. And so I took a little step back from that and did health and harmony. So anyway, I'm just curious people who are listening right now, trying to identify which quadrant they need to work on or where they need to undo the mind viruses or whatever it can be, which book or where do people start with their journey of undoing that from all the resources that you have available for everyone?
Well, I would say of the 16 books, start with Radical Rebirth and then go to Wealth Without Apology.
Got it.
For the process we just talked about, where Radical Rebirth will really show you the crazy belief. There's a chapter in that book about movies and books and television shows and some of the systemic mind viruses, like mind viruses that have gone on for 2,000 years, right? We could go back to Joseph Campbell mythology, the hero's journey, and we could say, wow, the hero's journey was happening there. We can see it in Puccini operas from a couple hundred years ago. We can see it in Lord of the Rings from 50, 60, or whatever years ago. We can see it in Star Wars. We can see it in Avengers. We can see it in Superman, Spider-Man, Batman, blah, 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 blah. So I take some of these things like orphans. There is a reason why Superman is an orphan, Batman is an orphan, Harry Potter is an orphan, Wonder Woman is an orphan, Luke and Leia from Star Wars are orphans. I have a list in the book of little orphan Annie. I mean, I have a list that goes on for pages and pages and pages. And people are like, what is going on? But I can show them there's a reason why you see this theme in plays, operas, TV shows, movies, all these different things, short stories, and they trigger your emotion for a self-defeating behavior. And you say, is this some mysterious plot from Hollywood where they're trying to brainwash everyone? No, it's just if you want to become a movie director, you know what you do? You want to make a movie like was your favorite movie as a child. If you want to write mystery novels, you want to write mystery novels like the favorite ones you grew up with. If you become a television writer, you want to write TV shows like your favorites when you were a kid. Well, what you didn't realize is the people who wrote those things when you were a kid, they were infected with these mind viruses, and they just unknowingly kept them on, right? So if we look at like the most popular movie in the history of the world was the original Titanic by James Cameron, right?
Mm-hmm.
I talk about that in the book. That was the most evil movie ever made.
Oh my gosh, you can't make me read the book. You got to tell the listeners why. We got to have the sneak peek.
Okay, because that movie programs you on level after level after level after level that rich people are evil. And, we have rich people stealing babies to try and get in the lifeboat, deceiving to get in the lifeboats, cutting in front of the women and the children. We we see Rose, and she's in the first class cabin dining room with all the boring rich people in there, sifting brandy and smoking cigars. And poor Rose is like, I would just kill myself if I can't get away from these rich people. And then Leonardo comes along and says, hey, mamacita, let's go down to third class where I'll show you how to party. And then we go down there and we have joy, we have fun, we have seasons in the sun, and we're laughing and drinking and bonding and, breaking plates and dancing. And wow, poor people are the fun, sexy, nice, cool people. Rich people are the evil, boring, nasty people. You don't want, right? Level after level after level. And so that became the number one. That was the first $1 billion movie, right? That was the most popular movie ever made. And people say, oh, it's a love story. No, it wasn't a love story. It's a hate story. But the more a movie or a book or a TV show panders to the beliefs you have, the more you identify with it. So, of course, how does Leo get on the ship? He wins it in a card game because he's a happy-go-lucky poor guy, What is Rose there? She's there because her rich family is saying, Rose, we need you to marry this rich guy. The family needs the money. Your happiness doesn't matter. Sell your soul, marry this guy, right? So that became the most popular history in the world. And then, of course, what succeeded it was another James Cameron move, Avatar. What is the principle of Avatar?
Same.
The evil, mean, greedy corporation, which hires these people. The Jake, I think is his name, the protagonist. He's actually in a wheelchair in real life. And there's even a line in the movie where they tell him, hey, if you do this, you go undercover, do this job good, we'll give you the money to get the operation to fix your legs. So, I mean, it's the most, right? So now what is that, by the way, is the same plot as his first big hit, which was Alien. What is the plot of Alien? The evil, mean, greedy, rich company that is trying to smuggle these aliens back to Earth. They don't matter if the whole crew gets killed. Doesn't matter because they're going to make a lot of money. And then and there's actually a new television version of Alien that's on CW or one of the networks. And now the world is controlled by 5 trillionaires. There's not even governments anymore. It's just controlled by 5 evil trillionaires, right? So it's not like, does James Cameron sit around and say, I want to make movies that program people to be broke? No. He's just making movies like he wanted to watch as a kid, the movies he loved. He's infected with the same mind viruses, and he's propagating them without even knowing he's doing it. So it's the same. Now, the catch with the orphan thing is the more emotional a mind virus or a meme is, the easier it propagates. And of course, as a mother, think of this. What would trigger your heartstrings more than anything else than an orphan? Somebody with no mommy, no daddy, right? And that's why Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Harry Potter, all have to be orphans, because the writers of those things don't even know they're doing it. They've been infected with the mind virus and they're replicating the virus. The memes parasitize the host and cause you to replicate the virus. So this whole money is bad, rich people are evil, blah, blah, blah. It's one of the most insidious programming of the world. So get all that stuff. So it'll blow your mind when you read the Radical Rebirth book and you realize it. Now, fair warning, it's going to destroy every show you watch or movie you watch the rest of your life. Because if you're smart and you really get my book, as soon as you watch an episode of Chicago Med or, Law and Order or whatever, you can say, oh my God, look at how they're portraying the wealthy person here. Look at the programming I'm getting here. You're going to watch a movie and instantly you're going to know how the movie's going to end.
I believe you. So I don't actually think most things are conspiracy theories. They're actually just access to information that now you know the answer. So I think I'm going to love your book. And also, the biggest threat right now, I think for kids my age right now is social media. Like social media does it 10 times faster and more infectious than any 2-hour movie we're going to watch. Plus, like, I don't watch every single thing they watch. If we watched a movie together, I could help them identify, the propaganda in it. But when it's a 30-second short that sneaks in between my daughter's barrel racing, video she's watching, it's frightening. And so we as a family actually have to talk to it and undo some of that propaganda because it's really important. And I think that that's something we all need to be paying attention to. But yes, I believe you. All the shows. It's just like, really, guys?
And
Here we go.
wait till you read the Wealth Without Apology book, because I've said in there something that's just now coming true, where I said nobody under 16 years old should be allowed on social media. They should be age gated. And you see it happening now, several
Yes.
places around the world. It needs to happen everywhere. And adults have no idea, but they're just as being victimized just as much. And they think they're more discerning and more intelligent. But the more intelligent you are, the easier it is to become intellectually lazy. That's the problem. And people have no idea how much they're being brainwashed. Like a lot of times I'll do an interview and it's just about prosperity. They just want to talk about prosperity. And they say, what is the single most important thing you could do to be more prosperous? And my answer always shocks them because they say, get off social media. Like me, if I wasn't an author, I want to support my publishers who put my books out. So I'm on social media, right? But I have a staff that does that for me based on the content I produce. They take my blogs and they take snippets from them. They take what I create for my YouTube channel and they create clips from them. And so I don't even have to be on social media. And then the other thing I always tell people is charge your phone in a different room than the one you sleep in. When I leave people are shocked all the time. Like, I sent you a text, didn't you get my WhatsApp? I'm like, yeah, I don't have my phone with me, or like I'll meet someone and they say, where's your phone? And like, well, no, I didn't bring it because I'm the last person on earth who believes like, wow, I could go to Whole Foods Market and pick up the groceries and come back and I don't need a phone to do it. Right? If you tell people that, they look at you like you're eating spiders in front of them. They can't even imagine. What would happen if there was a world war? What would happen if you had a flat tire? What would It's like, well, I lived for like half a century without a phone and I got by just fine. So I think I could make it the next few years. But because the number of people who are checking their phone 10 seconds before they turn off the light, the number of people who are checking the phone 10 seconds after they wake up, they're waking up to those breaking news alerts and these insidious negative programming stuff. They've destroyed their attention span. They destroyed their critical thinking ability. And they're just getting ginned up by the marketers and the political people and the people who are spinning all this stuff on social media. And so if you would take your phone, put it, like I keep mine, this is my office. It's a spare room in my house. This is where I work. I leave the phone in here when I'm done working. And then I'm not on the phone for the rest of the night. And and I could go, even in the Wealth Without Apology book, I talk about the research of the blue screen, what it does to your circadian rhythms, what it does to your sleep cycle, what your sleep cycle means to your health. It's just one of the most prosperous things you could do is unplug.
Yes, so I do that. So I charge in a different room, and I got like an old school alarm clock so I could get up So because that's a big reason why people sleep with their phones is I need my alarm. So I just got like an old school one that wakes me up, right? But what I think is what I think is really interesting is it becomes like an echo chamber too. So it's just like because the algorithm starts to learn what you're interested in. So then it like double compounds more than any movie could. And so I'll catch it sometimes, be like, whoa, because like you, I have a team that posts most of my content. And I'm on social media because I have a personal brand and this is important and this is how you grow. It just is what it is. But I try to limit my time like as much as possible so that I don't have that echo chamber. But I think maybe one of the gifts is that I have ADHD. So like the mind viruses and the propaganda, sometimes it's just like, right? And I've seen a couple of really funny Instagrams lately that are like, oh yeah, the program didn't work on me because I have ADHD. So I just kind of think it's sort of funny. But I think what the big part is just like recognizing it and separating yourself from it a little bit. So just knowing that it's happening is like literally the first step. But I think some people get too addicted to even know to be able to step back.
You can't read the label when you're inside the bottle. They have no idea.
Something has been driving me absolutely insane lately. Watching incredible local small business owners get buried trying to compete in an economy that changed literally overnight. Because now you're not just a gym owner, a med spa owner, a coffee shop owner, or a contractor. Now apparently you also need to be a content creator, an AI expert, a marketer, a sales leader, an automation specialist, and somehow still have a life. It's just too much. And honestly, most local business education completely misses the mark. It's either generic business fluff or strategies built for influencers and venture-backed startups that do not apply to Main Street businesses. So I decided to build something different. And guess what, friends? It's called the Local Guild. And it's basically the growth engine I've used helping companies scale to millions, rebuilt specifically for local small businesses. Simple, practical, fast to implement. And guess what? No MBA required. And this stuff just simply works. One of my most recent examples, we helped launch a brand new horse summer camp with zero audience, no fancy ad agency, no massive production, no ad spend. So what did we do? Well, we spent about $300 on local marketing, not ads, actual local community-based promotion that literally took us less than 2 hours to do. And guess what? It generated over $20,000 in summer camp sales. That's over a 6,500% return. That is exactly why I built this, because local businesses do not need more noise. They need practical growth strategies that actually work in the real world. And inside the Local Guild, that's exactly what we do. We are helping business owners get more customers, increase repeat business, use AI without becoming a tech nerd, build referral systems, fix pricing, improve follow-up, and create predictable revenue. And lastly, stop being the bottleneck in their own business. And to make this insanely actionable, we created something called the 7-Day Sales Jumpstart. It's not a course. It's an activation. The goal is simple. Generate sales in 7 days or less using the exact strategies that I just had that huge return on. So if you're a local business and you're tired of guessing your way through growth, you can join today for free. And all you have to do is go to revenuerascals.com/the local guild and you'll find us there. Okay. So if somebody like myself, health and harmony, feeling really, really good, right? And then I have some growth goals for my business next year. But I think the significance part is actually what I would like to talk about next, because going from successful to significant, that's pretty profound. And I like that. And I want to dig in there a little bit. How does someone recognize it's time to be more than just successful and it's time to now be significant?
Well, that's the easy one, because that time is now. No matter where you are in your journey, the earlier you develop that awareness, the quicker you're going to get there, and the more meaningful it's going to be to you, and the more meaningful it's going to be to the world. You say, yeah, well, once I'm a millionaire, I can start supporting causes. No, that's not how it works. You should, at even, I mean, it's just, you got an elderly person in your neighborhood who you're not that close to. If you just send them flowers twice a year, if you went and picked flowers and dropped them by twice a year, oh my God. If you just sent them a little care package, dropped it by the door, that's significance, right? You don't have to give $20 million to build a wing to cure cancer. You start with whatever. Start with a GoFundMe thing. Somebody has got a cancer diagnosis and they got to travel for treatment, and they started a GoFundMe thing. Give them a couple of bucks in that. You can be mentoring people in what you do. You can set that up with organizations you're in. Like, maybe they don't have that. Maybe you're the one who suggested and say, hey, let's create a mentoring program for the chapter where the experienced members are going to help mentor the new people who just joined the organization, right? And then and the philanthropy, let that grow. It was a big deal for me when I could send $25 to a charity, and right away they send you a thing. Thank you so much. Here's what your $25 did. We fed 212 kids because we can get food for 37 cents because of this, and your donation was matched 2 times by this and that, and and then next thing you know, you're sending them $50, and and next thing, and then all of a sudden it's 500 and 5,000 and 50,000 and even millions, right? That will let it develop as you go through the process.
Yeah, I've always found that the science of, like, there's science to giving. Like, there is actually like a reason why it feels good or energizes you. Like, I get a dopamine hit from it. I love helping people. Like, one of my favorite things to do is introducing people into the horse world because it allowed me so much healing and joy. So, just allowing my horse to be used for that, bringing people to the barn all of the time, making it accessible for, people to enjoy that experience. Like, it feels really, really great. And I don't give to get, because then that screws it all up. But it is really rewarding to have that loop. So to your point, yeah, it doesn't need to be a $20 million donation. It's like, how can you be expansive and giving in your life? And it comes back tenfold almost every single time.
Yeah, and the other thing is just, if you do like you and I do, I feel like the way, again, I was very influenced by the book Simon Sinek, The Infinity Game. And his premise of the book, I forget, whatever the economist who was, Milton Friedman, I think, who said that the purpose of a company is to make money for the shareholders. That's the only purpose. And Simon was the first guy that I saw anyway who said, nah, I don't really buy that. I think you could, instead of saying make money by doing good, you could actually make doing good be the main thing. So this is a few years ago. I'm looking at that when I read the book, and I just said, I'm going to set up my company that way. And I'm going to stop planning a book or a seminar or a coaching program or whatever on what is the financial possibilities for me, what's the ROI of this going to be, or the ROI of that. I'm going to do good. My mission is to make the world more prosperous. And I believe you don't do that with entitlement or charity, even though, as you've heard, I'm a big proponent of charity. I was not won, you don't win it, but I was awarded the Philanthropist of the Year, Nito Cobain Philanthropist of the Year award, a few years back. So I believe, but charity is the bandage. It's not the cure, right? The cure is consciousness. We've got to help people develop prosperity consciousness as opposed to poverty consciousness or entitlement consciousness. So all my books, my YouTube channel, my blog, my podcast, my consulting, my coaching program, it's all that way. So I just said, I'm just going to put out all my best stuff to the world and trust that the way the universe works is it will prosper my business even more. And so I feel like one of the ways I give back is my YouTube channel. About 5 months ago now, I said, I'm going to actually really, revive this channel. I opened it in like 2005 or 2007. I don't remember, but like 20 years ago. And was pretty active with it early. And then I just got busy with other stuff. And then I took a sabbatical for 2 years. And so I didn't do anything on any platforms. And then I just for my podcast, I would put the camera on and say, we're going to put it on YouTube. And, for you guys who would rather watch instead of listen. But like 5 months ago, I say, no, I'm going to cultivate this channel and I'm going to create a long form content video for entrepreneurs. And I'm going to post it every Thursday morning. And I had 2.5 million views over, it was 19 years. 19 years and 6 months, I had 2.5 million accumulated views. I started doing that, and I got the next 500,000 views in like 3 months. Then I got the next 1,000,000 views in like a month. So like right now, I have anywhere from 25 to 50,000 views a day on my channel. I have 2,000 people a day subscribing to my channel. I mean, it's blowing up. And I don't charge anything. I don't sell anything. I don't even monetize the channel. But I let the world know, if you're a builder, if you're a CEO, if you're a founder, you want to know something about branding, positioning, marketing, balancing the 4 quadrants of your life, creating value, building signal, working on your cash flow, how to find the right team people, anything to do with being an entrepreneur. I'm going to be on your channel every Thursday morning it might be 20 minutes, 40 minutes. It could be an hour and a half. Free, no charge. I'm just giving it to you. And every Tuesday and every Saturday, I'm putting up a blog just for prosperity first entrepreneurs. And no charge, no ads, no nothing. It's just that. And it's, I had last year was my biggest year I've ever had in my business. Scaled, in multiples. This year, I will multiple scale over last year. And even next year, I can tell you already, just with stuff I have on the books, that 2027 is going to be crazy, over the moon. But that's another way of significance, is I'm just putting the work out there, prosperity first, because I know because the other thing is, somebody has to talk about this. We are screwing your children. Their future is at danger, because this is the worst time to be a Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, or even Gen A, right? Because the whole money system is skewed against them. It's the first time in generations that they can't buy a house. They got more credit card debt. They got more student loan debt. The whole system is set against them. That's the bad news. The good news is, this is the greatest time in human history to ever be alive. This is the greatest time in human history to be a young person, to be a digital native. Because your kids, they adopt to social media and AI like you and I have to be dragged kicking and screaming. It's just natural to them. They've done it their whole life, right? So a lot of my work now is trying to reach out to that Gen Z group and say, here's the secret lesson in that book that nobody understands. My posit of that book is I believe it might be easier today to become a billionaire than it is to become a millionaire. Just because of the scale and the scope of technology and AI. And so, and here would be the example. If you're 22 years old and you know some pretty wealthy 50-year-old person, and you went to them and said, hey, I want to open an Italian restaurant in Park City, and I need $50,000 and you'll get 40% of the restaurant. That's an offer. I bet they wouldn't take it. They'd say, that's a terrible risk. Restaurants, high risk, low reward, analog business, very seasonal, very trendy, open and close. If you go to them and say, hey, I'm getting together with a couple of my colleagues from college. We've created an AI startup that we think could be a unicorn $1 billion valuation. And we need $2 million. And if you want to put up $2 million, you can have 0.5% of the equity. You know what? I bet it's easier to get that $2 million for the 0.5% equity than it is to get the 40K to 50K to own 40%. Because
of scale, because the principles of scale, it's just it's a better investment.
There's a chapter in the new book called The Magnitude of Scale, dealing with that issue, right?
Yes.
So
yeah. And similarly to you with YouTube channel and just educating for free, that was the whole purpose of Revenue Rascals, because I noticed that so many businesses and owners were struggling specifically around the marketing and sales and growth function because they couldn't get access to someone like me because I was basically out of budget. And so I'm like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to create Revenue Rascals. I'm going to tell you exactly what to do. The same things I would tell my clients, and go do with what you would like to do with it. Train someone internally, do whatever you want. And it has felt really great and rewarding. And it's really interesting because I'll meet people just randomly at networking events or on the street, and they'll have this question around business. And I'm like, well, that's episode 42. Go check it out, And so it's really rewarding, and it feels absolutely amazing. So with that being said, we're going to wrap up this episode with the most important question of the whole thing. And that is, what is the most rascal thing that you have ever done in business?
I think it is probably when I really went out on a limb and I wrote a book called Risky is the New Safe. And I tried to look around the corner and predict the future and any futurist would tell you the future's already here. It just isn't evenly distributed yet, right? So look at the things that are already here: cutting edge, leading edge, bleeding edge. And what would that look like 3 years from now? What would that look like 10 years from now? If is this a hard trend or is this a soft trend? And if it's a hard trend and it continues along this way, where would it? So I wrote, and by the way, this book was the result of me flying home from a gig in Thailand. I stop in the first class lounge in SFO, and there's a lady there with a puppy, and she takes it out of the carrier, and I go, hey, can I play with your puppy? And she says, sure, he's a clone. Well, I laugh. I think that's a pretty good joke. He's a clone. And she's like, no, he's really a clone. We're bringing him home from South Korea. This is the first cloned dog that's ever come to the United States. And it was true. There was camera crews meeting the flight when we landed in Miami. They were on my flight, and because they actually live in West Palm Beach. So they were on my flight to Miami, and I walk off, and there's all these camera crews and reporters to meet them and see about this dog. So it just got my mind thinking future stuff, because I had heard they had cloned a camel in Dubai, supposedly. And I'm like, I don't know. It sounds a little sketchy. That's like test tube stuff. But when that puppy licked my face, the whole world changed because it was the most adorable, like puppy, like you would adopt from a shelter. So I wrote a book about these crazy ideas like cryptocurrency, and that one of the countries was going to leave, one of the major countries was going to leave the EU, and that we were going to be able to take vacations on the moon, and that we would be able to buy a house on the floor of the ocean, and all kind of things like that. And I remember doing the media tour and for that book, and I mean, they thought I was insane. People were just, I remember I did the Joe Vitale show, and he was literally shrieking, like, how do you think like this? How can anyone think like this? Because, they would ask me a question like, do you really believe people are going to be able to buy a house on the floor of the ocean? I'm like, that's not even the question worth asking.
Yeah.
The real question to ask is, what is the price of ocean floor real estate going to do to the price of ocean front real estate? And when they say, do you really think somebody's going to be able to vacation on the moon? Wrong question. Much better question is, who owns the moon? We went there, we put a flag, Russia went there, China went there. If they knock down our flag and put up, does that mean they own the moon? If we go back and how do we populate the moon without all of the wars and destruction that we had on this planet, right? There's better questions. So I took that book. The publisher kind of thought I was crazy, but they were willing to take a chance. And they, I sent in, and then I just sent it out to all my dear colleagues, like, hey, read a galley proof, give me your thing. So I got back like 50 testimonials, and I sent them in with the thing, and they call me up and they say, how many of these do you want to use? I'm like, what do you mean? How many do I want to? All of them. That's why I sent them in.
Put them in.
We don't do that. What do you mean you don't do that? Well, we do 6 to 8 is the normal amount for a book. And why is that? Are you paying for the pixel? Are you worried it's going to be 2 more pages, 290 pages instead of 288 that we're going to be blank anyway because you print in 4-page signature? That's just the way it's done. Books, nonfiction books have this many things. And luckily, when I outlined it, it was such a wildly crazy book that I titled it a rock opera. And so I had an overture and I had the 3 acts of the opera, and that's what I did instead of chapters. So when they told me, well, nonfiction books, this is how they do testimonial. I said, well, this is not a nonfiction book. This is a rock opera.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
And they're like, oh, okay, I guess so. And so there was like all kind of crazy things like that I could win the argument because I had created a new and different category. And that book hit the New York Times list, the Wall Street Journal list, the Publishers Weekly list, became the USA Today #1 money book, even though it wasn't a money book, translated into gazillions of languages all over. But because I was willing to be a rascal in your terms and just do things differently.
Oh, well, I love that. I think I have a lot of reading to catch up on, Randy. So I'm going to start with the rebirth one, and then we'll move on from there. So where can everyone learn more from you? Where should listeners go to follow you around?
All right. randygage.com, blog, podcast, YouTube. Everything's off there. For any of the books, best place is usually Amazon.com.
Wonderful. Awesome. Well, Randy, thank you so much for today. It was great to have you as a guest, and cheers to everyone leading a prosperous business and life. Thanks for listening to Revenue Rascals, where we turn bold ideas into predictable revenue and prove that breaking the rules can still build empires. If you love what you heard, do me a favor. Tap the links in the show notes to support our sponsors. They're the ones keeping this show free so I can keep ungating the strategies that help you scale faster, lead smarter, and take more freedom home with you. And hey, if you think you'd make an incredible guest or know someone who's built something worth studying, email me at hello@michelleterpster.com. And until next time, stay sharp, stay bold, and stay just a little bit rascal.